It's time to learn why Bob Chesney is a perfect fit as UCLA's head football coach.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to this edition of Locked On UCLA, joined by David Schultz of Locked On Sunbelt, crossing over, talking today about Bob Chesney. We're talking about the highs, the lows, the goods, the strengths, everything about Chesney going from James Madison to UCLA. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Welcome back, everydayers. And this is the crossover. This is the talk we've been waiting to have. David Schultz of Locked On Sunbelt. You even had Chesney on your show a couple of years ago, I believe you mentioned off the air, for Media Day when he just got the James Madison job. UCLA gets Chesney. Do you believe this is a perfect fit like I do?
I don't know if it's a perfect fit, right? Because he's got all of his connections out east compared to out west. But I do think it is a good fit because I think if you can recruit, like if you can sell, you can sell, whatever it is. And I think Bob Chesney can recruit. And I mean, where do we think all these quarterbacks come from around the country? They come from Southern California. So you got to get that. Once you get the quarterback, you're in good shape. But I think he can recruit. And he's been doing this a long time. You know, we get these guys who are these coordinators and work their way up and become head coaches. Bob Chesney's worked his way up being a head coach. He's going to have like 16 years of head coaching experience before he takes the UCLA job.
And he's a pretty young guy. He's only 48 years old. He seems pretty charismatic. What's it like kind of been covering him? I know you do a more conference whole perspective for the front runner to win the Sun Belt Championship game in James Madison and Chesney.
Well, it's kind of picked up right where Curt Cignetti left off, right? They had a bunch of people, right? And, you know, Indiana going to the playoff last year, number 2 in the country this year, doing it with a bunch of former JMU players, but that did not stop Bob Chesney. And one of the great stories that we've had in the Sun Belt the last couple of years is this Alonzo Barnett III, the quarterback for JMU. He won the job a couple of years ago before Chesney got there out of camp and basically got stage fright. Lost the job. Jordan McLeod went into him like in the second quarter or second half, ends up being the player of the year in the Sun Belt. McLeod transfers to Texas State. As Cignetti leaves, he wins a job again, and he struggles in the first quarter or something like that, maybe the first couple of possessions, and Chesney says, "You're the guy. I'm not taking you out. You make a mistake, you make a mistake. We move on." And Barnett has been fantastic ever since. He did injure himself, unfortunately, on the last play of the regular season last year. So he wasn't quite healthy. They did a 2-quarterback system, one of the more odd 2-quarterback systems you've ever seen, like playing each different plays with Matt Sluka. And he was just, I don't know if he said it, but I thought it was kind of like 75% in their loss to Louisville. And that's their only loss. And Barnett ends up being dynamic. So he's probably looking for that, two-way quarterback, someone who can throw it and someone who can run it.
And you know what UCLA has currently, as we're recording, they got Nico. Whether Nico stays or goes is a whole nother topic. But he's got a quarterback that can run first. And what Chesney's displayed so far is success with the 2 QB system, a guy who can move, a guy who can throw. And Nico has that capability in his own right. But for Chesney, what was he like coming into James Madison? What was he dealing with in that situation? How much did Cignetti not exactly rip apart, but take with him to Indiana that Chesney had to build back up in these last 2 years?
Well, he took a lot. And then, like as I mentioned, the quarterback, who was the player of the year, left, ends up in another drama at Texas State, who was pretty good last season. But he had to rebuild it. He took a lot of players. Elijah Surratt, still there, wide receiver for Indiana. So he's been there for a couple of years. And he took a lot of guys from the defense, and they went in there. I was impressed. They playing in a playoff game, and now they're number 2 in the nation. So, but he's just come from, I guess I'm so impressed with Chesney, whereas some of these guys, I don't know why I pick on him, but I just know it. Like Jeff Lebby. Jeff Lebby is the head coach of Mississippi State. When he got the job at Mississippi State, 0 years of head coaching experience. None. He just went the assistant coach route. 0.
Let me not tell you about a guy named Deshaun Foster.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's 0 coaching experience, right? Yeah. That's 0 coaching experience. I think Chesney spent like a decade at Holy Cross. he had a really good Division I AA school, and he was, and I can tell you, maybe it's not quite a decade, about 5-6 years. All right, he was at Assumption before that, and then Salve Regina before that. He was supposed to get, as someone that I'm a fan of, Syracuse. He was going to go to Syracuse, but guess what? Syracuse didn't want the Division I AA guy, so they settled on Fran Brown, who was a coordinator at Georgia. One good year, one bad year. Chesney's had 2 good years. They got an outside shot at making a playoff. Somehow Duke could win this ACC championship game, and I still think they'll keep JMU out. They're not going to want 2 G5 teams in there. I don't buy that at all. But he's just had such a solid year. Defensively, he's fantastic. Makes outstanding second half adjustments. He shut out the opponent 5 times in the second half. I think they've given up 192 points all year, 59 in the second half. So it's almost 2-1. He gives up like 133 in the first half and about 60 in the second half. So it's really impressive, and he does a good job. They had one really tight ball game, which was Georgia State, and they had to hold off Marshall. But other than that, they've been really blowing people out. I guess the Cajuns played okay against them. They had to come from behind to beat the Cajuns midway through in the season. But he's such a good second half coach. That was one of the teams that they shut out in the second half to allow them to come back for a win.
And earlier in the year, they had that close battle against Louisville, right? They're pretty close,
Yes.
tight in that fourth quarter, and they had the Cardinals on the ropes, and that's when Sluka was really running the ball, 21 carries for one of his guys that followed him from Holy Cross after transferring back from UNLV to follow his former coach to James Madison.
Right. But that was, Zach, I've never seen anything like that, right? We're not talking about each possession changing quarterbacks, which is crazy enough as it is. They were changing quarterbacks each set
play.
of downs.
Wow.
Maybe Barnett would come in like the first and second down, and Sluka would run it on the third, or Barnett would throw it on the first, Sluka run it on the second, Barnett comes in on the third. It was whack. But I will say, basically, that was 2 plays. Louisville hit a crossing pattern for a touchdown, and then I think they ran a sweep, and Louisville hit 2 big plays. It's a 2-score ball game. JMU took control at the beginning of the third quarter, but then Louisville just hit 2 big plays. That was their whole game. I think JMU gave up 254 yards in that game, something like that, 250 yards.
And Louisville's had some good wins this year. Louisville has had some good wins this year, and James Madison almost took it to them earlier this year. So that just talks about
Miami.
Yeah, and that's going to keep them out of the playoff. That will keep Miami out of the playoff. And that competitive loss at the moment for James Madison can be compared together with, can they make a case to the playoff if they win that Sun Belt championship game? So all that together, it seems like it's a perfect fit. Were you shocked Chesney went to UCLA and not, say, a Penn State?
A little bit. Sure. I'll give you an example. I said this on my show. I was in Alabama, and Auburn hired Brian Harsin. All right. And so he's actually from Arkansas State, did a little bit there, and then he was in Boise. All right. He replaced Chris Peterson in Boise, just to get people out west who Brian Harsin is. Is he the Cal offensive coordinator? I think so.
Maybe. So, I know Cal just is going through a coaching change, but yeah.
Right. So Brian Harsin came in, and it was right after, I wouldn't say after COVID, but it was late 2020. All right. So there's still no visits. You can't go visit the schools, right? You're doing this all through Zoom. And he had a little scandal after his first year, and then they did a write-up before his second year, and he still had not recruited Thompson High. Zach, this should be, I'm an idiot Yankee who likes baseball, all right? Been in the South for a decade, and I know your third or fourth call after you get the job. AD is the first call. Realtor may be your second call. Hoover High may be your third call, and Thompson High is your fourth call. It's in the top 5, and he hadn't done it yet. And when you have the ability, you don't need to spend time in a car. You don't need to spend time in a helicopter like Nick Saban did. You just line them up on Zoom, and I don't understand why he did it. I think Bob Chesney is going to go out there and crush it, and he's going to need help, right? Outside of Mater D and some other ones that we all know about. You got to go find out where the talent is. Talk to the coaches who have their talent. I'm sure they'll also say, hey, you need to look at this kid, right? And you need to do that for North and Southern California. there's not a lack of talent in that entire state. And then you pick a couple of guys out from Florida and a couple of guys out from Texas who want to go away to school, and then you have your team, right? It can't be too difficult to recruit in Southern California.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. That's the real thing that's been a letdown since Chip Kelly and what Chesney's going to have to pick back up. But we'll talk about next. Does he have that personality? The Bruins have had a couple of weird personality fits the last couple of head coaches, whether it's stumbling over words over their last or over the Big Ten media days, or Chip Kelly, who was just kind of meh. And that's how the fan base responded to him. It seems like Chesney has got a little different vibe. We'll talk about that next on Locked on UCLA. Those NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum, swing, and every highlight moment. For me, I'm a big Raiders fan, so basically all you have to do is probably just put your bets and your money against the Raiders. And live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, when a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in the moment. Here's the line you should look at. UCLA men's basketball plays Washington coming up pretty soon. They are a 1.5-point favorite at Washington. I think UCLA, despite the injuries, will cover and win it by more than 1 point against the Huskies in Seattle. So if you want to place your bet right in the middle of the action, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL bets or all your live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Now it's time to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of Bob Chesney as a head coach. As an super biased, influenced, thought about Bob Chesney, I think he's got no weaknesses. Now, that's not entirely true. Everybody's got their own weaknesses. But let's first touch with his personality. UCLA's had Chip Kelly, who's a meh personality, and the fans reacted to it the same way, wanted him gone despite some little bits of success. Deshaun Foster clearly had never been a head coach before, never stepped in front of a microphone before as a head coach, and the Bruins saw that response get met with embarrassment at the Big Ten Media Days a couple of years ago when the Bruins just really quickly got down to Foster after Chip Kelly left. What's Chesney's kind of personality like? Does he fit that LA lifestyle? Is he ready to burst on the scene with lots of quotes? What is he coming to UCLA to do with his personality?
Yeah, he's probably not quite Hollywood just yet, but he's got Hollywood looks. You know, good looking guy, big smile, sunglasses. He's got all that going for him. So there's a couple of different situations that we've seen Bob this year. Did see him up close and personal. I live in Louisville, so they came to me this year. I saw him, and he was upset, as you can imagine, at losing that Louisville game. There's should have won and could have won. They probably should have won that football game. Okay,
and that's important to know that they should have won that game. They could be unbeaten, and they would be the inside team to the G5 playoff right now.
Yeah, they would be in the top 20, very much so. So at least that's the way he saw it. Okay, so he was visibly upset, disappointed, severely disappointed. So in that respect, I'd love to play poker with him because you kind of know what he's thinking. Having said that, Monday he's having a press conference, and they talked about his name being bandied about Penn State and UCLA. And he goes, yeah, there's outside distractions. I have agents to deal with that. We're dealing with that. About 10 minutes after that press conference, he's going to UCLA. So they did not see that coming at that moment in time. Guess he's still going to coach this weekend's game on Friday, which I'm attending. So we'll ask. If you want me to ask him any questions, Zach, I'll be happy to do that. You want me to ask him where he's going to live?
Many good places.
Right. And so I think he's going to be fine because he is, he's going to be thankful for the opportunity, right? I mean, this is, again, not a guy who has gone from GA to, special assistant to position coach to, coordinator to head coach, right? And he's making a bunch of money along the way. I can't imagine what he was making at Holy Cross, but he was coaching Holy Cross in 2023. Okay, he's going to be paying more in taxes out in LA than what Holy Cross was paying him. So he's going from a couple $100,000 maybe to, I think it was about $800,000 at JMU to whatever UCLA is paying somewhere.
Quite a few million. And if you look at all these other contracts being thrown out there, that just looks like pennies compared to what Kalani Sitake might be making at BYU, a once rumored name at UCLA. UC Lane Kiffin going back and forth between LSU, Ole Miss, the amount of money that's getting thrown around there. That just seems like pocket change. But for UCLA, that's them ponying up. And Chesney could have had more money if he became a bigger search or a bigger player in the Penn State search. But it seems like it's working out much better.
For UCLA, yeah. I get the only difference is about all these jobs is that all of these are college towns except UCLA. He's got to live in LA.
I mean, Westwood is definitely a fun college town, but it is like, there's Westwood. Also a bunch of other things to do as well. Yes, it is its own thing.
Westwood is a fun college town. Probably costs slightly more to live in Westwood than it does in Baton Rouge. Just spitball.
Yeah, I mean, Baton Rouge is still pretty close to New Orleans, though.
It is. It is an hour away, right? Even in LA parlance, it's still just an hour away compared to the 10 minutes, the 10 miles you drive. That is an hour away in LA.
But what are some of the strengths and weaknesses for Chesney? You talked about he's a good X's and O's guy, really good at second half adjustments. Is there anything that we should be worried about, or is he just as dominant, as dynamic as it gets to the X's and O's, understands it, won the press conference that he didn't even announce he was going to UC. He's like, I got beat. It seems like he's winning in all areas right now.
I think he did a good job, although we didn't understand it at the time. And it took me about a month to figure out that Barnett was hurt. And so that's why Matt Sluka was playing. And about 3 games later, Sluka's not playing. So he's going to protect his players. Okay. He knew that Barnett wasn't. And coming back from a knee injury, not only is it physical, but it's mental, right? He's got to believe that if he puts his foot in the ground, his knee's going to come with him instead of going the other way. So he does a good job protecting his players. I think what he did last year, if you look, they had some bad losses on the road. I think they were all on the road. He had double-digit leads in all 3 losses last year. And that has not been a problem this year, right? He's got the 1 loss. It was to, an ACC team in Louisville who at the time was healthy and pretty good. And so I think he's learned from what happened last year. He's had some close ball games, right? Again, the Cajuns game was close for a little bit. They were down 7-0 at half to Georgia State, or maybe it was 7-7. And they beat Georgia State in the second half. Georgia State's not very good, but, he was able to overcome that. So there were some games last year, like they should have beaten Marshall last year, and that's how Marshall ends up getting into the Sun Belt Championship game and Charles Huff winning that ball game against the Cajuns. So I think he's learned a lot from last year. Now, it's going to take a little bit for him to learn, 2 things, right? He's got to learn Southern California. He's got to learn that culture. He's got to learn the UCLA culture, and he's got to learn the Big Ten culture, right? Again, it's still just 2025. In 2023, he was coaching Holy Cross. So now he's going from Holy Cross to JMU to UCLA to the Big Ten. So that's a massive jump in a very short period of time.
Do you think the East Coast thing, the West Coast thing is a little overblown? Like I keep hearing, he's the East Coast recruiting. He's an East Coast guy moving to the West Coast. Do you think that's an overblown thing, or do you think that is something that is reasonable? Because UCLA is tough to recruit more for the academics, but it's in a recruiting hotbed as much as the East Coast can be too.
Sure. I mean, technically, Virginia's on the East Coast, but I'm not sure Harrisonburg is, an East Coast hub. Right, it's smack dab in the mountains, so it's in a valley there, Harrisonburg. So, but I guess he's got a lot of connections. Obviously coaching in Holy Cross there for a long time in New England, and in that in the DMV with DC, Maryland, and Virginia. But you got to make new ones, and I think that's okay. Now, can he? I don't think it's going to be very difficult if he's got somebody in Massachusetts. This is what the Pacific Ocean looks like. Come out here, right? I think he's got to do what most people would do is, count on the talent in Southern California. He's got to convince them to come first. And I think he's going to do that. I think that, that's it. That would be the easiest way to, where are the high schools here in Southern California? Who do I need to talk to? Who are the power brokers? Let me at them. And I think he's going to he's going to fit that mold really well.
And we'll wrap things up with the big question. You're probably going to hate this question. Anybody's going to hate this question, but it's going to be asked. Is he the next Curt Cignetti, and can he translate it into immediate success at UCLA? Next to the Locked On UCLA podcast and the crossover with Locked On Sunbelt. All right, wrapping things up here on Locked On UCLA, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer alongside David Schultz of Locked On Sunbelt, Locked On UCLA, getting things together because why? Bob Chesney's going to UCLA. Now, technically, as we record this, it's not even officially official. They're letting him coach through the Sunbelt Championship game, getting all the way through the CFP if that works, but that's what everything's reported. They're just waiting for it all to finish.
Chesney's like, I'm going to... Zach, I want to bring that up. Do we really think these guys are going to coach in the college football playoff? The championship games are one thing because it's 1 week. But the first college football playoff game isn't for 2 weeks.
I think here's the big thing. One, it helps that the portal doesn't open until January 2nd. Now, I've already done an episode or so about there are players for UCLA, at least 4 I've counted as of this recording, that have declared their intention to enter the transfer portal because it's not open until January 2nd. Early signing day is already going to be a loss. So that's just like what's going to happen. They had a recruiting team that's gotten what they could salvage from a good recruiting class that's all kind of gone and turned elsewhere. We'll see what that looks like by the time Chesney gets here. But there's a second signing day and there's a transfer portal. And you got to use that to your benefit. Now, I'm not assuming James Madison is going to play in a Rose Bowl game or in any game that happens on New Year's Day. And it takes a lot. I would think it's going to take a lot for them to even get in. Now, as much as Duke could win that ACC championship game and get JMU in the CFP, obviously, like I still think, what was it, Virginia who was playing in that game against Duke?
Yeah, Virginia's already beaten Duke badly this year.
And I think Virginia is like, wait, we have a chance to get into the CFP? They're going to play their butts off to get an outside chance to get in the playoff for them, as much as Duke could get left out. So it's still going to take a lot of factors for JMU to get in. Even if they win that championship game,
I'm going to be surprised if these G5 coaches are not allowed, but just decide, you know what, I need to go get ready for the other job.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I would maybe some other guys, but in UCLA's perspective, they're probably thinking, yeah, we're not going to get in, but we can let them go off into the sunset with the Sun Belt Championship and see how things play out. I think that's my interpretation.
Okay.
So here's the question. Can he turn his James Madison success into overnight success that Curt Cignetti, Google my name, I always win? Well, Chesney, you Google his name, he always wins wherever he goes. He just doesn't have the brashness that Cignetti has, but he's now earned at Indiana. Can he bring that overnight success to UCLA?
Well, he can, and it starts off with, again, do they keep Nico? Is Nico going to end up at another school, which would be about his 4th school, something like that?
It'd be his 3rd school in 4 years.
Yeah. So if you can keep Nico, and I would ask you, Zach, having not watched a whole lot of them this year, is he worth keeping?
I would say with the way Chesney has been able to instill confidence, especially from what you said, into his quarterbacks, the ability to adapt and be creative with the 2 QB system at times in this year where they've been 11-1. And he's had success with Sluka as his main QB at Holy Cross, back at his Holy Cross stop too. So it's not like he's working with, chopped liver there. He's working with some guys he's had success before and put somebody else ahead of that dude. I think the big thing is if Nico's team, right? It's the team, right? It's the extra stuff around Nico that's been the problem with him leaving Tennessee, or what could be the problem behind the scenes if there's stuff going on at UCLA. I think he could be like, nah, I'm not dealing with this. And with Nico being a run-first quarterback, if you will, that was his success, being UCLA's leading rusher, it could lead to success. Now, is Nico going for a payday? Is he going to be out of his mind and go to the NFL draft? Or does he want to rehabilitate his image, stay at UCLA with a guy that's a proven winner? It might not turn him into a Heisman candidate like what Indiana turned Curtis Rourke into, but UCLA, I think, could utilize Nico, and Chesney could unlock something with what he's already displayed with 2 quarterbacks this year.
So you get the quarterback, you need some weapons, but football is still football. And especially in the Big Ten, you need an offensive line and you need some guys to get after the quarterback. And that's what
UCLA does not have.
That's what JMU is very good at. They lost a couple of key defensive guys following last year, not even Cignetti's year. some of these guys who stepped up in the bowl game left right after the bowl game. And so they haven't missed a beat. They have not missed a beat. So I would look for him to build from the inside out is the way you do it. And so you protect the quarterback, you run the football, and you get after the quarterback. And maybe get some of those, lockdown corners a little bit later. Again, I think wide receivers out in LA probably grow on trees. So you can find somebody.
They grow. They grow everywhere. It's just, can you get the guys to protect your quarterback
right
in and get depth there? Because one thing to get 5, it's another thing to get depth and continued depth for 1 to 2 to 3 years.
Well, that's the thing. It's not even depth for 4 years, right? I mean, your team's changing every year, so you hope just to keep some guys through, maybe one season, and hopefully we'll go get some more guys the next season.
And you talked about James Madison losing some guys. Did they hit the portal? Did they have some guys as backups that are stepping up right now? What's going on with them on the O-line, D-line that's helped them to be successful?
Yeah, they had some. Yeah, they had to go into the portal because they lost some guys last year that were very good at getting after the quarterback. But you pick and choose, and he's very good at that. So I would think that he's going to be an outstanding coach at UCLA. From the outside looking in, there's some financial issues that the school's got to overcome. But with Big Ten money, we'll see what happens.
If the private equity deal ever gets through, they can get an infusion of cash. UCLA has already gotten the UC Regents to pledge a bigger deal to the next coach, which is Bob Chesney, and he will be reaping the benefits from what I believe was a $6 to $7 million deal that Football Scoop reported. A huge pay raise, whatever it is, from James Madison to UCLA. It's a 5-year deal. I think the fan base is just so excited. They have a proven coach who doesn't seem like a bore and actually has some head coaching experience, if you're looking at the last couple, and a proven program builder too. This is the guy who's proven at stops that just haven't really won at D3, D2, D1 at Holy Cross. Not so much James Madison, but he has a proven track record of turning programs around. I think that's the excitement, and the patience will be there.
Well, outside of James Madison, he's stuck around. So this may not be a stepping stone job for him. This may be it. If he starts winning there, why does he have to leave? Unless he's thinking NFL. That I don't know. But
that would be the ultimate. You start D3 college and work your way to the NFL. But I mean, he's young enough to pull it off. I hope that's not the case. But if UCLA's coach is being so successful that he's getting poached by an NFL team, I think we take it, because right now UCLA is currently near the bottom of the barrel of the Big Ten, and I believe they can be much higher than what everybody's looking down at them as.
If he does really well at UCLA, he may not have to change stadiums to take over for an NFL team.
Yeah, depending if they do go to SoFi. Yeah.
Yep.
So what would you say if I gave you over under a year and a half that UCLA gets to 7 to 8 wins? 7 to 8 wins. They haven't had that in a couple of years. Do you think he does that in year 1? Does it take him 2 years, 3 years? What would you go with?
Without seeing the schedule?
Yeah. And obviously that schedule continues to change with people wanting weaker and weaker schedules. UCLA should have had at least 5 wins with the schedule this year, but.
Yeah, I'll say next year. I'll go 7 wins next year without seeing the schedule. I think he'll go bowling next year because I think he's that good of a coach.
And that's been we would have been so glad for a bowl for UCLA in the next year. Like, I would have been so happy in this year. But next year, just to get to a bowl, that would bring so much momentum in for the year after. So you're saying next year he could make that immediate impact, which would be a 4-win growth from one year to the next.
So he's got at California. This is on footballschedules.com. At California, San Diego State, and Nevada. Those are all pre-conference ball games. I mean, can he win those?
I would think so. And Cal just changed their coach. We'll see if their quarterback stays at Cal.
That was an odd change. He was doing pretty well out there, right? He wasn't.
I mean, it felt like an oddly timed change. I thought Wilcox should have been fired years ago. And then I didn't think he was bad this year or last year in the ACC. Was able to get through Fernando Mendoza leaving and had a decent quarterback. And then all of a sudden they're like, yeah, let's get rid of him. But sometimes coaches you're the stepping stone. We got the next hot shot coming in next. And that's what Cal believes they might be having in their next coach. I forget who it is off the top of my head. But San Diego State, potential top tier Mountain West, soon to be Pac-12 team. And then Nevada, those
we
are
call
all.
That Pac-12. We call that Pac-12 2.0.
we don't call it the real Pac-12. We call it the
Texas,
conference of
Texas
newbies.
Sunbelt member Texas State is joining Pac-12 2.0.
Yeah, the conference of newbies. So it's not even the conference of champs. So that's a schedule where UCLA could go 2-1. This year they went 0-3 in non-conference play. So it's not a given, but I would think Chesney could get enough done against some Mountain West teams next year. That's my hope. And then the Bruins, I believe, I don't have the schedule off the top of my head, but Big Ten play would switch around, and they're not going to go to Ohio State and have that game next year. They'll have a little easier of a schedule, I think, in 2026.
I mean, get Rutgers, Wisconsin, and Maryland in that crew, and you got some wins there.
Yeah. And so it looks like UCLA has an absolute win as a head coach coming in and Bob Chesney to UCLA. So it seems like a fantastic fit. The program builder, the program resurrector, potentially the program that's kind of dead right now sitting for UCLA. That's David Schultz of Locked On Sunbelt. Thanks for joining today, Dave. And then I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, Locked On UCLA. Follow our stuff, like, comment, subscribe, download on our YouTube channels, whether it's Locked On Sunbelt, Locked On UCLA. We might bring him back because Chesney, we got a lot to learn. So we'll see what there is and more after Chesney plays and coaches his team in the Sunbelt Championship game. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Zach.
Thanks for tuning into our show. We'll see you next time. And as always, go Bruins.